So at this point I chose to do the colour tests on the just the pencil drawing because I wanted to get that sorted out before I began any form of detail, which included the line art. The colour test is really a process of trying to work out what colours to use, what colours are going to work best together, not only on the individual character, but also when the three characters are together on the same page. You also have to keep in mind what kind of colours you might be using in the background as well, so that things are contrasting well and they're not, you don't want the colours of the background to blend into the characters so they become hard to see, and vice versa. I decided to use yellow and purple as a combo for my electric character. I decided that I wanted to use two main colours for each of the characters, and I wanted a combination of a colour you would normally think of when thinking of that element, so in this case yellow, but then using another colour that you may not usually think of when you think of the elements in question. So I use purple because yellow and purple are complementary colours and they tend to work well with each other. I've used them quite often, those two colours together, with several of my projects in the past, and I just really like the way that they work together. So at this point I couldn't decide whether the skin should be purple and the markings yellow or the other way around. I also wanted to think about what kind of, I didn't want his hair to be either yellow or purple because I wanted it to be distinguishable from his skin. So this process was probably the hardest of the three because I had to try and work out what shades of yellow and purple, but then also what colour did I want his hair. Did I want his hair to be a variation of yellow, or did I want it to be a variation of purple? I didn't want it to be anything too dissimilar to either one of those colours, because I really did want only two colours as a main focus for each of the characters. So yeah, this took a little bit of time, and I took about 3 or 4 different options in the end, and the one I went with ended up being purple markings with yellow skin, and the combination I think worked really well in the end. I really do like the shade of purple that I chose. And at this point I'm just wrapping it up now. I'm starting to really like what I've come up with. So this is the purple and the yellow that I ended up coming up with, and his hair ended up being that sort of orangey browny shade that I've picked up there. I did sort of think maybe, you know, should I blend some purple into the ends of his hair perhaps, but every time I coloured any purple into the hair it just seemed to blend, his body just seemed to blend into the hair, and I just didn't want that. So I thought this shade of orangey brown here was absolutely perfect in the end. So that's what I ended up going with, and there he is, and there's my colour palette. So next was my earth character, and she was a lot easier. Obviously the colour you would think of when thinking of vines and earth trees is green, so that's why I've gone with green first. I wasn't quite sure what other colour to mix with it. I was thinking a pinky red, considering green and red are complementary colours, but I didn't want her to look too Christmassy, which is kind of the way it was sort of starting to look in the beginning. So yeah, I thought a nice shade of pink might be the way to go. So I'm just, at this stage here, I'm just testing out a few shades of pink and green together. And yeah, I remember, this is in fast forward now, so it seems really quickly, but at the time I realised I didn't like that pink at all, so I ended up changing it to the blue. And even though blue and green are sort of similar colours on the wheel, they seemed to work together well in this case. She sort of then ends up looking a little bit like planet Earth, which was actually unintentional. Someone did ask me afterwards if I intended for her markings to look like continents, but I didn't. It's totally coincidental, but I thought that actually worked well considering she is an earth character, so she didn't take as long as the electric character did. She sort of fell into place pretty quickly in comparison. So last but not least is my little fire child. Obviously when you think of fire, most people think of red, orange or yellow, or a combination of the three. I wanted to choose a purple to go with her red. I know the electric character had a purple too, but I thought a different shade, more of a lilac-y purple, might be a nice contrast to her bright red. She did end up being, though, the only character who I ended up colouring differently to what I had initially chosen after the colour test, but I'll explain that a bit as I'm progressing through this fast forward video. I thought about using more than 2 colours with her because she was a bit of a feisty character. I thought that might be good to go up against the other 2 characters, simple 2 colour contrast. So I've tried a combo here of pinks and purples and reds and oranges to colour her. But in the end, I did actually go back to just the purple and the red shade because I just felt like it was too much in the end. I tried this here, I'm sort of trialing a little bit of a gradient colour change as it progressed up her body. But yeah, I didn't really like how that worked in the end. Yeah, so this was what I actually chose, this purple, orange, red combo. And then her skin again was another colour, more of a browny sort of earthy tone. But like I mentioned, I did end up going back to just the red and the lilac-y purple. I did keep her skin a separate colour too, but that actually worked out really well.